Hello, people of the internet. My name is Austin Belzer, your host. I just wanted to get on really quick and talk to you about the audio quality of the following podcast. Apparently, I had my microphone set up incorrectly, and that affects the audio pretty substantially in the following podcast. I apologize for that, and it was also going through Zoom, so there might be some interference going through there. So I apologize for that. I probably should have recorded this in Studio One, which is what I use to edit, mix, and just about everything for the podcast. I just didn't have the foresight to actually click record when I was recording off of Zoom. I apologize, and I hope that you can still enjoy the following podcast, and if not, I apologize. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Austin B Media Podcast. I've got something new today. It's not a filmmaker. It's not, Claire, hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's always, I'm pretty new to interviewing, so, I don't know if you've looked at any of my other interviews, but, my first interview was AFI Fest 2020. It was this guy who made a short film, and I'm always so ill-prepared. I have all these questions, and then I get into the interview, and it's mind blank.
I co-host a podcast, and I said from the very first episode, I'm never doing the introduction, and I'm never doing introducing the guests because it's hard. I just immediately was like, never me.
Yeah, and even when you come up with a question, or here's how I introduce the person, and it's nope, just falls flat. But yeah, so for those who may or may not know you, who are you, and where can we find your work?
Yeah, so my name's Claire. I am a film critic and podcast host. So at the moment, my main focus is my podcast. It's called W Rated, which stands for Worst Rated, and we watch the worst rated films of all time, focusing on IMDb's bottom 100 films. But we watch them with positivity. We are watching them to see, are they really that bad? Do they deserve to be on this list? And we're finding that actually a lot of the time it's a lot less to do with the film and kind of outside influences. So that's really fun. Outside of that, I'm a film critic who I've written for Film Stories, Cinecast, CRP Rights, there's a few others. And I'm a member of the Online Association of Female Film Critics, as well as, who we'll be talking about today, Film Independent. And that's me.
Yeah, and we're both Film Independent, just for full disclosure. And so to those who are unaware, I DM'd you and a bunch of other people who you'll be hearing from later. Surprise, surprise. And I keep kicking the table. That's fun. So apologies, audio listeners. But I had this idea. Somebody gave me this idea for awards season content is one of your busiest times, other than Sundance or festivals.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you talk to the people? She gave me this idea of why don't you bring people on your podcast that are also in the same guilds to talk about these things, because you're not doing that. So hence the reason you'll see a lot. Listeners you'll hear a lot more. I've got 3 scheduled for one day. On the 26th, my hair will look a lot nicer for video people. Getting the haircut this weekend. Actually, interesting side note, because ADHD brain, I was scheduling my haircut and I was like, okay, I've got it all scheduled. And then I got a text from my barber saying, hey, your haircut's in 30 minutes or a few hours. Confirm it here. And I'm like, that's not right. That should be for Saturday. So I thank goodness for online booking. And Square appointments and all that stuff. But Yeah, let's get into it. I'm really excited. This is something I haven't done before,
Hmm.
so everyone bear with me. Um, so I think this is the big question. I think what a lot of people don't understand, and I tried to state in my nominations post, was you and we don't vote on the nominees.
Hmm.
We have no idea what the nominees are until they post the video.
Yeah.
Um, Hence why I did a live stream, because I was like, I wonder who it could be. Um, so in that sense, it's different from the Online Association of Female Film Critics for you. For me, it
Hmm.
would be OFTA, let me see if I remember, Online Film and Television Association. That's what it is.
Hmm.
Um, where I actually get to nominate things.
Yeah.
We just hear about them. So let's talk about the process. Um, what what is the voting process? I know it, but just for
Hmm.
people who aren't members.
Yep. So we get this magical email saying that the nomination ceremony will happen, and then they just like as a kind of novice to the Oscars when they do the nice video where they tell everyone who's nominated. We get this lovely list of nominations, and then we get access to all of the films nominated, or almost all of them, and we get to vote on them in various categories. And so you have things like the typical ones: best editing, best male lead, you get best director, but then you get some nice kind of extra ones like best first feature. I think is a really great category. Um, and I love best first screenplay as well. And I think that's something that I like about Film Independent. They kind of give that extra little voice to new filmmakers, which I think is sometimes missing with other awards.
Yeah, and they also have, I think, what do they call it? Emerging Filmmakers Awards, like the John
Yes.
Cassavetes.
Yes, we don't get to vote in that, but we get to see all of the nominations, so we can have our own opinions. But yeah,
Yeah.
they also do give out a few. So the jury that decide the shortlist for the noms do already nominate a handful of films ahead of time to kind of make sure that we know they'll be celebrated. One of which is the Robert Altman Awards, which kind of just picks out an outstanding film of the year. And this year's was Mass by Fran Kranz, which I'm delighted by because
Yeah.
I absolutely adore that film. And I'm so sad it was locked out of the Oscars and the BAFTAs. It's
Oh,
just,
so sad. Like, at least original screenplay. Come on.
yeah, like I
Um,
don't understand why. And it's also another reason why I love those awards that have best ensemble
mm,
categories, because that should be winning every best ensemble.
yeah, I mean, it's funny, in my own awards, when I was nominating things, I was like, do I put Mass in Best Supporting and Best Lead? And it's like,
That's it.
okay, yeah,
It is
sure.
a tough one for actors for that reason, which is why I love a good ensemble, which I would say Film Independent should add in, but based on kind of the other films this year, there wouldn't be that many ensemble nominations,
Mhm.
but it would open up to more films. So, think about it, guys.
And I think in that vein, so we both like Mass. Um, And I think something that has been that's always interesting in award season is you get this inbox full of screeners,
Mhm.
and some things surprise you. And with either any, if you in the nominations or the what you picked on your ballot or
Mhm.
anything you watch on the screen, what surprised you this year?
Absolutely. So when the nominations were announced, there were a handful of films that I'd already seen. One of which was Swan Song, which I got to see last year at South by Southwest. And that is nominated in a couple of categories, but the main one is Best Male Lead for Udo Kier. I have been banging on about his performance since March of 2021. One of the best performances I saw last year, just brilliant film. And I was like, there's no way he's not getting my pick for Best Male Lead. And then at the weekend, I watched The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain. And
That's for me today. That's the one I have
it
on today.
it destroyed me. And there's no way I cannot give. It's Frankie Faison is the actor. I just can't not give it to him. And that's been my biggest surprise so far, because I just assumed Swan Song Udo Kier based on how much I loved that film, and I've been banging on about it and waiting for it to get a release over here in the UK and Ireland. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh no, not for you anymore. Goodbye.
Yeah, I have a friend I talked to, Keith, from Keith Loves Movies, and we'll hop on Discord for the banana meter stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, we're not getting that. UK closed."
Yeah.
So that's always been fun. And I think for me, I haven't seen everything, as we'll get to later. I mean, there's just so much. I think what I like about film independent is how many surprises there are. Like I'll get into this maybe a bit later, but Akira, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, isn't even released, and they're like, yeah, we like it so much, we're gonna put it on there.
Yeah.
Now, that said, did I like it? Not for me, but...
Me either. But I respect it. I thought, brilliant performances and well made. It just wasn't my film, and unfortunately it was also very similar to a film called Amira, which I saw at Venice Film Festival, which had almost a spitting image actress, even though completely different ethnicities. They just had very similar tones, very similar vibes, so the two films were too similar for me as well. But I do love that they put that in there, because it's different to every other awards show where it's just the same 5 films constantly.
Yeah, and so in that sense, we're there are obviously films we put on a pedestal. For me, it's not nominated here, but I understand why. Kristen Stewart for Spencer, that's my big thing this year. Like, if the Academy doesn't do anything there, I'm gonna be so mad.
She didn't even get a nomination in the BAFTAs.
Yeah, I woke up and I was like, really?
It's a controversy. I get it. I don't think it's right, but I get it.
So in that vein, what are you reading for?
So I have been ranking the films as I've been watching them.
Same.
So my top, which were 4, so my top 5, 4 of which I'd seen before the nominations came out. So the 5th one would be The Novice, which was a first time watch for the awards, and it blew me away. Just, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. And then the 4th is Flea, the animated documentary, which I got to see at London Film Festival, and it's just a stunning film. 3rd, Swan Song, the Udo Kier film that I mentioned earlier. 2, Mass, which we've discussed. And then number 1 is Pig, which I saw, I believe, at Glasgow or Edinburgh Film Festival before this. And yeah, Pig is such a special, different film in every way. So I was delighted to see specifically those 4 nominated.
And then in the opposite vein, what were your least favorites? Like, what did you hate?
Yeah, so my bottom 3, one of which is gonna get me cancelled. I hated Drive My Car. I hated it. I'm sorry. Oh my God, it was just so long and pretentious, and there were some wonderful scenes, but I didn't need 3 hours of it. I've realised it's become a bit of a running joke that I'm bored of films about men who can't emote, and the whole film is about him learning to have an emotion, and I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm ready for the men to have emotions. I do think I've heard from people that had I seen it in a cinema, I probably would have got a lot more from it, which is the unfortunate thing about these award ceremonies, especially myself being based in Ireland. Even if they were screening them, which Film Independent do sometimes, I wouldn't be able to go because I'm on the wrong continent, the wrong country anyway. My second least favourite was The Nowhere Inn, which is about a singer. It's like a mockumentary. It just didn't work for me. I thought it was very lovely made and well acted, but wasn't for me. And then the last one was 7 Days, which is nominated for Best First Feature. I actually saw that at London Film Festival and hated it.
Yeah.
I had so many issues with it. Like specifically, I don't really want to like spoil it for people that might want to watch it, and it might work for some people. I've seen some positive reviews of it, but it spends so long giving us these characters and like making it clear like this one's really stuck up and this one's really chill, and then within 2 minutes it completely changes their characters. I'm like, it just did, the characterization didn't work for me and the timing didn't work for me, and it just felt like a shame because especially the actress, I've seen her in a number of other things and she's a wonderful actress and I like the Duplass brothers, but I found it very weak and I found like it contradicted itself way too much.
Yeah, it reminded me of another Duplass brothers movie. I think it was Mark Duplass. I saw it via Film Independent. It was that one where they're on Zoom.
Language lessons.
Yes, I didn't like that one either.
See, I loved Language Lessons. I got to see that at the cinema as part of like a film festival, and it just hit me in a very specific way that I just sobbed. I just was like about 20 minutes into the film, just hysterically like crying. And I turned around to my friend who was with me to be a bit like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. He was asleep. He had fallen asleep. And I was like, that sums up how different film is for different people. Because to me, Language Lessons tapped into this like real emotional, deep moment, and it felt like I connected with it. And for him, it was so dull, he fell asleep.
I think my thing is I was already on Zoom so much that year. I just was sick of it. And especially at Sundance, I had been seeing a lot of Zoom or COVID stories where I'm like, like maybe we'll talk about it later, but in the same breath, I didn't even finish that at Sundance. I was just like, I got 30 minutes in and I was like, you know what? I'm good.
See, whereas I think I had the benefit that I didn't see it until the end of 2021. So I had, you know, and I got to see it in a cinema with an audience. So it was a very different experience viewing that one.
Wow, I think if I had a subtitle on this, I'd have to say I'm jealous. I tried to go do virtual London Film Festival, and that just didn't work out. But,
no, they are heavy with those geo blockers.
Oh yeah. Same with South by Southwest. If you're looking to get into that.
So I did South by Southwest last year, and yeah, I was really disappointed by how much I wasn't able to. Seems around about. Oh, you back?
Yep, I'm back.
Yes. There we go.
So I think, let's see, in that sense of access, how did you feel? A lot of these titles, I'm looking at Best Feature, a lot of these are streamable.
See,
a lot of the nominees are streamable.
They're not in the UK.
So,
which is why I became a film independent member during the pandemic, because there was so many films we weren't getting access to. So I think I actually got it for Promising Young Woman. Promising Young Woman didn't come out in the UK until April 2021, and it was like an early 2020 release, I think, in the States, like September. So we waited like over 6 months longer, like 8-9 months. So that was one of the reasons. So like Best Feature, Come On had just come out in the cinema when we got access to these nominations. The Last Daughter went on Netflix around the same week. The Novice still hasn't been given a release date. Solar, you could see it in the cinema, and I was able to see that in the cinema. And Chiara equally isn't out. So it's about 50-50 split for me on that one.
Yeah, and I think that's like kind of, at least for the US, since they're not streamable for international. But I think even with this year's Oscars, a lot of things are becoming streamable, and it's kind of an interesting thing, because it's just like, okay, last year, yes, there were a lot of streamable movies, but it was just kind of, I don't know, mainly TV stuff. But this is just like, no, and First Feature, there's like stuff from Netflix. For Zola, that would be Showtime. but yeah, I mean, with access, regarding access, let me get closer to the mic here. um, it, 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 um, it is always an interesting thing because to talk about Promising Young Woman, we didn't get that till March, I want to say. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy. And with that, I always think that film independent has a type, um, like a type of movie, a really artsy movie, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean. Every so often they'll throw a surprise in there, but there does tend to be a kind of artsy vibe, which sounds really like mean. But I mean, within the voting, it does say that they look for and they encourage us to vote for kind of innovative films and films that are different and films that speak to specific elements. And I do find this is my second year voting. I tend to clash with a lot of the innovative because I'm not very much into experimental film, but I do really, really go all in for the unique storytelling and the kind of pivotal storytelling. I think they're great. I have a real kind of passion for female led storytelling. And I feel like, again, this year there have been a lot of really well made female led films within the nominees, which is a great bonus for me. Which is why I didn't like drive my car.
Yeah, and to talk about clashing, I said, I put all my ballots out for patrons, because I kind of feel like it's a secret thing too, because it's like, okay, you're not really supposed to share your ballot, but I do it anyway, because I think it's interesting to track these things. And I think one of the things I said last year, 2021 Spirit Awards was my first year voting. So I specifically called out the 3 tenets and said, I'm going to ignore this. I'm just going to say, here is what is best. Because when you say best first feature, best cinematography, you are implying a thing that says, okay, this is the best. Not now, if you wanted to say, I think their 3 pillars are inclusion, and
I think
2
it's
other things that I can't
inclusion,
remember right now.
innovation, and maybe diversity. Yeah.
Yep, that's it. And I'm like, well, if you want to do that, you'd say most inclusive feature, or most diverse feature, or feature with, so on and so forth. So anytime somebody says best, I'm like, okay, I'm going to vote for the best.
Like, I would say I would be half and half with that. I watch all of the nominees within a specific category, and I will vote for the one that hits me the most, that I have the most that works for me the most. But there are a handful of categories at the moment where I have 2 favourites. So there, when it comes to picking between those 2 favourites, that's when I would then use the 3 tenets and be like, okay, well, looking at these 2 categories, which one is more inclusive or innovative? And then I'll go with that then if I can't choose. So I think it's nice to have the guidance.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you, like you say, if we're saying best, well, I'm gonna pick the best.
Yeah, and it's and to talk about something you mentioned there, I forgot to mention that on the voting ballot, which we'll get to in just a second. And I haven't cast mine, by the way. I'm waiting till like the last minute because I want to see everything.
I've got my choices for the ones that I'm ready to vote on, but I haven't submitted yet until I'm ready to vote on everything.
And something they mention is you cannot vote in a category that you've not seen all the nominees in. Hence why I took, I had content that went out yesterday, but I wrote it the previous day because patrons get everything a day early. Subtle plug. But I guess in that vein, that actually kind of perfectly segues to one of my questions. What didn't you get to?
So at the moment, I've not finished international film and I've not finished documentary. So I've got all other categories done and highlighted on my lovely digital spreadsheet. So within international film, I still have 3 to watch. I have Compartment Number 6, Pebbles, and Prayers for the Stolen, which I know I'll definitely by Tuesday, which is when we vote. So that's 4 days.
You can skip the first 2. You can skip international. I've seen both Compartment Number 9 and Pebbles.
I'm interested in Compartment Number 6, but the other 2 I'm not so. But I'm not going to skip them. I'm going to be good. And then I've got so I'll definitely get them watched because I've got 4 days to watch them. But then I've also absolutely flopped on Best Documentary, which I did last year as well. Last year I didn't vote in Best Doc. This year I'm aiming to. The only one I've seen is Flea, which I had seen prior to the nominations, and I'm almost definite that that's going to get my vote. But that makes me want to watch the other 4, which are Ascension, In the Same Breath, Procession, and Summer of Soul, because I won't vote unless I've seen them all, and I want Flea to get my vote because I want Flea to
win. Speaking of Summer of Soul, I have seen Summer of Soul 3 times now. Yeah, I want to say 3 times.
It's meant to be amazing.
And it is going to have its television premiere on the 20th. Well, that's stateside. Darn.
That's all right.
Well, to anyone watching or listening, if you hear this by February 20th during the All-Star game, well, I'll have the details in the description. As long as I remember
it's
to
on
do that.
Disney Plus in the UK as well. So if anyone that knows me is listening, you can watch it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, on the Plus. I guess before we get to ballots, just one final question: what would you like to see next year? Actually, I have one other question other than that, but I'll get to that later.
One of those is what I mentioned earlier. I do think there's definitely room for an ensemble. I definitely think that, and I think that would definitely also open up to extra films, because looking at what was nominated this year, there's only a handful that I think could have gone in ensemble. So I think that would give us even more variety and more opportunity to nominate films. And the one that I'd love, but it will never happen, would be animation. Now, to get within the Independent Spirit Awards, you have to have been made under a certain budget, and it's going to be very difficult for an animated film to be made under that budget. So I completely understand why they don't do it. But I would love to see something like that, because I am a big fan of animation. Even if they tried to do animated short films, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd just be lovely to see that side of it as well. But I completely get why they wouldn't, because it would be very difficult to source enough films to be nominated that enough people would have seen and want to nominate.
Yeah, for example, I don't think Mitchell's vs. the Machines, Raya, Luca, or anything that was nominated for the Oscars this year would have gotten in.
Not.
Because a reminder to anybody who doesn't know, Mitchell's vs. the Machines was produced by Sony Pictures Animation for, I think, well above what the bar is for film.
So I went to a screening with Lord and Miller of Mitchell's vs. Machines, where they did a Q&A afterwards, and they did say they consistently went over budget. Just consistent. So, I think not only was it way out of the league for Film Independent, I think it was way out of the league for Sony Pictures. I think they were quite worried.
Yeah. Which is probably why they sold it to Netflix, but that's a conversation for another time. And then I did say one final question before we get to ballots, but I lied. So this is year 2 of TV series being eligible for consideration. I think last year one was Unorthodox. And to remind people of what's on the series this year, let me flip around. Which I have seen all the TV shows. In new scripted series, it's Blind Spotting, It's a Sin, Reservation Dogs, Underground Railroad, We Are Lady Parts. In non-scripted or documentary series, Black and Missing, The Cho Show, The Lady in the Dale, Nuclear Family, Philly DA. And then basically the same thing for female and male performance. And then ensemble cast is Reservation Dogs. But anyhow, it's the second year. So what do you think about the integration of TV series into an award show that is literally called Film Independent?
So I'm going to contradict myself here because I'm so pro the bringing in of TV. I love TV more than I love film. TV has always been my first passion. I adore TV. So I'm so pro giving it any opportunity to shine, any opportunity to bring awareness to wonderful shows. Very pro that. But for the second year in a row, I won't be voting in the television section because it is too difficult to watch the nominees. So for me, it wasn't as bad this year, but I had a very bad year in 2020. I just didn't watch that much TV, so part of it is just on me. Because looking at the best new scripted series, I think all of them I could have watched in the UK. But last year specifically, a number of the nominees weren't available in the UK. They provide you an episode or two to watch, but I can't judge a TV program on one episode. I'm a completist. I need to watch episode 1, 2, 3 in order. And I remember last year trying to watch something that was nominated, and it was season 2, episode 7. And I was like, no, my brain, I don't know any of these characters. I don't know what's happening, and I find it really difficult. So
I hate that too.
This year I decided not to vote, which is a shame.
And what's interesting is they put out all these email blasts about vote, 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 vote. And then in bold, black, like just big bold, they say, it's okay if you haven't seen all the episodes. That's why we only include 1 or 2. Like last year, Little America.
I adore that
show. That made me so mad when it was like 1 or 2 or 3 episodes, and they were trying to nominate the whole series. And I'm like,
well, that's it. So, like, of the best new scripted series, the one that I have seen is We Are Lady Parts, and I absolutely adored it. I had so much fun watching it last summer. But if I had only seen 1 episode of it, I would not have the same relationship to it that I do having watched the whole series. So I don't really, because I guess the expectation of, like, that's a 6-episode series, but I'm sure there are other ones there that are much longer. The expectation of trying to get us to watch, 5 nominees with a minimum of 6 episodes each. Yeah, that's exhausting. That's completely unheard of. That's not going to be feasible for most people.
Yeah.
But I, in my own brain, can't figure out a way to be able to vote, because even if I watched the one, there's Blind Spotting, It's a Sin, Reservation Dogs, and The Underground Railroad, it would be very difficult watching just one random episode of those 4 for me to vote any of them ahead of We Are Lady Parts, because I've followed those characters from beginning to end of their whole journey, so I feel like I know those characters. And so I think I would always end up voting for the show that I'd already seen, and I don't think that's fair.
And going to AMC Plus today, because I was like, you know what, I wanted to look up one of the shows, one of the TV things they nominated, which I think is I Blame Society. And I realized they completely snubbed a TV show that's on their own streaming service, by the way. Kevin Can F Himself.
I
completely snubbed.
Get through that. I gave up on it. But I was surprised by how much it was snubbed in the awards.
I've only seen... Yeah, but I was like, really? On your own on your own channel? I mean, that's like such an easy thing.
When it first came out, it got loads of praise, and then it kind of just dwindled. I think I did 3 episodes and I gave up. But it didn't get that much buzz at all for a show that was getting loads of buzz when it first started. But for me, it felt like one of those high concept shows that the concept wore out quite quickly. So I wonder if that's why people haven't nominated it.
Probably. And so with that, let's get to our ballots as they stand right now. I have my Excel spreadsheet up. There are things that I'll probably skip over, so because I haven't seen them yet. There's a lot I haven't seen. Sorry.
That's all right.
And I'll probably have seen more. So how do we want to do this? We want to go category by category? So here's what I have for Best Feature, and I'll tell you what I haven't seen. And these are ranked, by the way. I have Zola at number 1 and Akiara at number 2, because I haven't seen anything else.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I've seen all 5 nominees. So that you've got Akiara, Come On, The Last Daughter, and then you've got The Novice and Solar. On my ballot, so my ballot isn't ranked, but what I do have is I've highlighted the one who I'm going to nominate. And at the moment in this category, I've got 2. I've got The Novice and Solar. So I saw Solar back in April of 2021 at the cinema, and I've not had time to rewatch it for this because I've been prioritizing watching new films. So I'm torn between giving that one to The Novice or Solar, and I'm hoping I can sneak in a Solar rewatch before I submit my ballot to make my decision.
Yeah, I think if I had to vote today, it'd be Zola. Because Akira has nothing to it.
I thought the performances were very nice.
Yeah, I think there was one performance that I can't get to because it would be a spoiler. But and then I guess best first feature. Here's what I've seen, and one of them, I've seen very recently, in the past 24 hours. I have Test Pattern, 7 Days, and Queen of Glory. Everything else I haven't seen. I haven't seen Holler or Wild Indian. I saw Test Pattern, I think, this time yesterday. I literally finished it at 3 something my time. And it's such a good film. So good. 7 Days is just there because it's just a 7 Days and Queen of Glory are Saturday movies where you watch when you have nothing else to watch. I mean, they are fine as character pieces, but that's it.
Interestingly, Queen of Glory is getting my vote in this category. So I've seen all 5. I loved Test Pattern. I really did love Test Pattern. The reason I'm giving Queen of Glory the edge is it felt different to me. Felt like something I've not seen before, and I liked the risks that the director took. There's a lot of like interspersing of different imagery, and it's quite like a different, unique way of telling a story. And I also just really enjoyed the story. So I kind of thought on that one. I felt all of the film. I didn't like 7 Days, and I didn't particularly like Wild Indian, but I really enjoyed Holler, Test Pattern, and Queen of Glory. But when I laid them all out, I thought, well, Queen of Glory is the most interesting for me visually, and considering it was a first feature, I didn't feel like it felt like a first feature, which is why I thought, well then, I'll give that the award.
It's funny because I like the cinematography of Queen of Glory because it feels kind of like a bystander, just kind of looking. But it feels like a student film.
See, whereas that's how I felt about 7 Days and Wild Indian.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the different.
And
no, it's interesting. Like we've had the same opinion, but on 2 wildly different films.
No, it's funny. Everything you like about Queen of Glory, I like about Test Pattern. Because I think, man, I wish it would have gotten into best editing. Because I can't say why, but there's just something about how it places you in the mindset of that person.
Yeah, and I would say Test Pattern, I was quite close to giving my nomination, my ballot. But yeah, there was just something a bit different of Queen of Glory, and it was going back to those tenets. When I looked at the 2 of them, I was like, I'm going to say Queen of Glory is that little bit more different for me. And
and then we'll skip John Cassavetes' award because we don't vote on that. But I will mention that I did see Jockey, and that's it. Out of that category, I love
Jockey, Shiva Baby, and Sweet Thing, and the only one I liked was Shiva Baby.
I need to watch Shiva Baby, but I don't have HBO Max. So I need to find somebody with HBO Max. Now we move on to Best Director. Here's what I have. I have, I don't know how to say her name, so I'm sorry, Miss Bravo. I'll just say Zola at the top. Then I haven't seen anything else in that category. So default right now would be
Okay,
Zola.
so nominated we have, I'm going to go with Janica Bravo for Zola, Maggie Gyllenhaal for The Last Daughter, Lauren Hadway for The Novice, Mike Mills for Come On, Come On, and Ninja Thyberg for Pleasure. I've watched all of them. I'm, again, just like Best Feature, completely tied between Zola and The Novice. I'm just torn on them because The Novice blew me away for completely different reasons to why I liked Zola, so I'm finding it very hard to judge between the two. But The Novice is like on paper very much my film. It's like a character-led study of someone who's like going through a breakdown, and it's like a look at mental health and determination, but it's kind of sinister and it's really cleverly edited and made. Solar was just so clever with what they did. Every decision made in Solar is the perfect decision. I didn't Come On didn't work for me. The Last Daughter didn't particularly
Yeah.
work for me. Pleasure was fascinating. Pleasure is about a young girl trying to break into the porn industry, and it is at times a very uncomfortable watch. But I was fascinated by it, and it was very different to anything I've seen before. So I thought it was very well directed by Ninja Thyberg. But it has to be between Solar or The Novice for me. So I need to get that Solar rewatch in.
Is it as uncomfortable as the Zola hotel montage?
Worse. Way worse.
Oh,
Way worse. There is.
then I'm gonna have to like minimize that window when I watch
Yeah,
it.
not to go graphically, but at one point she goes to film basically rape porn. And I felt it was, for what it was incredibly uncomfortable to watch, but I felt like the director handled that scene very sensitively and very interestingly. And I felt I actually meant to go and look up some interviews with the director, because that scene being the most uncomfortable scene in the film, I felt was so well done. But yeah, it is not one to watch in front of other people.
Well, I'll make a note of that, because just put it on my laptop instead of my monitor. And then I guess we have best screenplay up next. And here's how I have it. Again, I haven't seen a lot of these, so I have Zola and Together Together in that order. And Zola and Together Together are neck and neck for me. Because I loved Together Together when I saw it at Sundance, but Zola, I think, does a better job at placing you into a mindset.
I'm very similar. So I've seen all of them, and so again, it's Together Together, Solar, and then you've got Lost Daughter and Come On, Come On Again, and then you've got Swan Song by Todd Stevens, which is the Udo Kier one, not the Apple TV one, which I've not seen.
I was waiting for you to mention that.
I've seen that one. I'm neck and neck between Solar and Swan Song. Because I need to, again, I would quite like, it's been over a year or nearly a year since I've seen Swan Song, but I remember loving the screenplay when I watched it. So I just want to give it even just a little mini bits of it rewatched. Because I felt like it did loads. It's very first person centered and plays with memory, and I felt it was really clever. And there was some lovely like conversational moments in it. So I do feel like Swan Song is probably going to edge out Solar there for me, but I want to give both of them a rewatch if I can.
Yeah, and I might rewatch Together Together. I own it on iTunes.
It's such a lovely film.
It's been since Sundance, so that's over a year now.
That was my first film I watched when we got the screening room. I went straight for Together Together, and I loved it.
What was my first one? Let me see, because I have a handy dandy little Letterboxd plug, where I keep track of all this, where I rank it, everything. It's private, so people can't see it, but
mine's public. I've
vote.
ranked them all, but not within categories, just within the whole overview. So like there are films that are lower than other films, but they'll get more votes because of the way the categories work.
So it looks like the first film I saw in the screening room was Blue Bayou.
Oh, I watched that a couple of days ago.
It is not my favorite. Yeah. And I have seen all the best cinematography, but we'll get to that. Let's see. Best first screenplay. We have Wild Indian, Cicada, Test Pattern, Mass, and Pig. What I've seen is Mass, Pig, and Test Pattern in that order. That is my preferential ballot. Mass is just such a good first screenplay. especially when you consider this is the guy who was in Cabin in the Woods as the stoner guy, and he created this wonderful, touching film about loss and pain and grief. And then, same thing for Pig. You think, oh, it's a Nicolas Cage movie. You have a certain idea, and then it's just not that. The only reason why test pattern is as low as it is I think the structure of it doesn't work at points. There are points where, and maybe this is the point of the film, so maybe I just didn't get it, because I've never been in that situation. I think there was a note where I wrote down, like, wait, is this the next day? Is this the next week? Is this a year out from the initial scene? Or is this, like, when is this?
Yeah,
I need a time
there were a
frame.
couple of times that I felt the same, where I was like, wait, when is this scene happening? Is this a flashback, a flash forward? What's going on?
Like, once it gets an emotion, I think it works. But, like, right before things kick into high gear, it just does not work.
For me, I've seen all of the nominees, and I am completely torn between Mass and Pig, because Pig slightly is a better film in my opinion, not by much, but if I had to pick better film, it would be Pig. But it's screenplay, and it's first screenplay. And whilst the dinner conversation in Pig is just beautiful screenwriting, I think so much of what makes Pig work is everything all together. It's the cinematography, it's the performance, it's the things that aren't said. Whereas with Mass, that's all script. Obviously, it has amazing performances, but that film is the conversation. So I feel it feels remiss to not give that the screenplay award, because it is some of the best writing. It's literally just 4 people in a room, and yet it takes you so many places. So whilst Pig is the slightly better film, I do feel like I'm going to end up giving it to Mass.
And even if this doesn't win, it still won the Robert Altman Award. So
yeah, exactly.
We won somehow. And then, speaking of cinematography, that is the next one up. So nominated we have, and I've seen everyone in this. Blue Bayou, The Humans, Akiara, Passing, and Zola. So my ranking is not where I need it to be on the spreadsheet. I have it ranked as such: The Humans, Passing, Zola, Akiara, and Blue Bayou.
Interesting. Very different to how I would rank them.
Primarily because, so I had seen Passing and Zola before the screening room. I like the black and white in Passing, but it feels like it's not, something's missing in the cinematography of Passing. Like, just, there's an extra step. There's just that one ingredient.
That way about the whole film. I couldn't tell you what was wrong with it, but it wasn't. There was something. It was good, not great for me, and I don't know what it was.
Like, I feel like the thing missing with Passing is a cinematography level discussion of color. Like, I feel like there would have been something interesting if there was, like, little moments where there was color, and you were like, oh, why is this happening? But maybe that might have detracted. But I am a sucker for stage plays. So the way The Humans is shot, I haven't read anything on how it's shot, but it feels like a stage play, except for high budget, where you're moving through these rooms where I assume it's handheld, and you feel like you're just constantly lost in the maze of the apartment. Zola was, I mean, The Humans, Passing, and Zola are all neck and neck for me. Because Zola, oh man, some stuff in Zola is great. Just especially that montage scene is like what what I think kind of put it over for me. As weird as that sounds, but Akiara and Blue Bayou, they have nothing interesting in the cinematography department. I do not know why they're here.
See, I would instantly kind of not care about Akiara and Blue Bayou and Passing. They kind of didn't. Nothing about them inspired me. There were small moments in Blue Bayou, but very small moments, and I felt like it was more about the location than the actual cinematography because they used some beautiful locations. I have discovered over the years that I really don't like plays that are turned into films. There's been a lot recently where I just feel like you've just filmed a play. And if I wanted to watch a filmed play, I'd watch a filming of a National Theatre performance. What I loved about The Humans was, for me, even though I could tell it was originally a play, it felt like a film. They utilised that space and the camera in so many different ways that I was really pleasantly surprised, because I was worried it would just be in one room, static, like a play. But no, I thought that was beautiful. But for me, Solar just knocks it out. And as you're seeing, there's a theme. Solar is basically, if Solar's nominated, it's probably getting my nomination.
Yeah. I mean, like, if I had to pick, like, if somebody said you have to pick right now, it would probably be Zola or The Humans for me.
Yeah. And they'd be my top two as well.
Yeah. And with what you said about Blue Bayou, I think they saw the ending of Blue Bayou and they're like, oh, that's so good. And then just was like, because there is a legitimately beautiful scene in that movie. Yeah. But then I'm like, I could see that in like 300 different movies, but and I have. And then another craft category we have is best editing, which is also in the wrong place. Yay! So I haven't seen. So what we have nominated is Akiara, The Nowhere Inn, The Novice, Zola, and The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain. I have not seen The Nowhere Inn, The Novice, or The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain. Although I am seeing Kenneth Chamberlain today.
Please I beg you to watch The Novice, because it's so good. If that's low on your list, pop it up. Pop it up if it's lower.
So what I have seen of those are Zola and Akiara. Obviously Akiara bottom right now. And Zola is top because I think just the montages, the way they're edited. And I'm not even talking about that's just the one montage. I just think
for me,
plays with it.
There was the scene where they're in front of the mirrors and they're talking to each other, and it's like just the way that is edited is stunning. So I've seen all 5 of the nominees. The only one that I think I wouldn't give a vote to is Akiara. I don't think the editing's bad. I just don't think it's particularly special. I didn't care for The Nowhere Inn as a film, but one of the best things about it was its editing, so I can see why it got nominated. The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, what they do with the editing and the pacing is so special. But and then The Novice again, the way that they edit, the different kind of vibes they use within The Novice and the different steps they take. The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain and The Novice are very neck and neck for me in the way that they use editing to create tension. But I am going to give it to Solar because I think Solar does that too, but also does like 7 other things at the same time. So I have to, for the ingenuity of Solar and how different the film feels. It feels like many different films within one, yet it never feels like it's a different story. So I have to give it to Solar, but I could easily give it to almost any of the nominations in that category. I think that's the strongest category for me.
And which is interesting because that's a perfect segue into our next category, Best Female Lead, which I think I know exactly what you're going to vote for, but I'm going to say mine anyway.
Yeah.
Who's nominated is Isabel Furman for The Novice, Brittany S. Hall for Test Pattern, Patty Harrison for Together Together, Taylor Page for Zola, and Kelly Rice, I believe, for Catch the Fair One. Here's what I've seen. In this order, I have Taylor Page for Zola, Patty Harrison for Together Together, and Brittany S. Hall for Test Pattern. I might swap test pattern and together, because I think Patty Harrison's performance is a little more understated than I almost said Isabel Furman's, than Brittany S. Hall's.
Yeah.
So it's not doing a lot, but I also kind of want to nominate it for that just because I think it's so nice that in a rom-com we have, I believe she is trans.
She is.
And I think that's just something to be celebrated. No matter
Yeah.
if, like, I think out of this, that fits the one of all three.
Yeah, and I think, because I didn't know, I've seen her in a couple of other things, and I like her. She's someone that I've only become aware of in the last year, and when I see her in things, I'm like, oh my god, yes, I love that person. And I only found out that she was trans after watching this, because I was Googling a little bit about the film, because I liked it so much, and I discovered it's about a woman who gets pregnant, and she is a trans woman, something that she naturally, unfortunately, won't be able to do. What I loved about the film is that she isn't a trans person in the film, and it never references that. And I think that's such an important step. And you could, like I did when I watched it, have no knowledge of that, and the film works wonderfully anyway. But then when you do have that knowledge, it just gives it that extra, like, wow, like, good for them, good for the actors, good for the casting. Like, I'm really pleased that they made that choice, and I hope that continues to be a thing. So I've seen all of the nominees. The only one that I didn't like was Catch the Fair one, and that was not the performance, that was the film. It just wasn't a film that I cared for in any way. It just didn't work for me. I could happily nominate any of the other four, but it is going to Isabel Furman for The Novice. And
I figured.
Yeah, without a doubt, she is, like, her performance in that film, it's just amazing. I didn't know who she was before, and then I googled her, and she's the orphan from Orphan. She's been in the Hunger Games, she's done a couple of things. She carries that film, and the emotional depth that she goes to in the film is insane. And I'm so angry that there has not been more talk of this film in awards season, because her performance deserves to be up there with all of the other nominees. Like, I love Jessica Chastain, but The Eyes of Tammy Faye is not where it's at. I didn't hate it, but it's not, the best performance of the year. Isabel Furman, outstanding performance.
I think we all know why she got nominated. I mean, I like Eyes of Tammy Faye, but
I found it fine, watchable. I thought that she'd give a good performance, but, it's overacting, and I get that that's what the film wanted, but there are so many other people I would rather see nominated, and that's sad, because I adore Jessica Chastain.
And I may have a bias here on that, because I live not too far away from the compound.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Or one of the compounds that the bakers have.
Oh.
So when I publish that review, when Oscar season gets closer, there will probably be some bias about that.
That's okay, though. That'd be interesting.
And we also have Best Male Lead. We have Clifton Collins Jr. for Jockey, which I saw at Sundance. Frankie Faison for Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain. Michael Grey Eyes for Wild Indian, which, by the way, he is also nominated, I think, for Rutherford Falls, I think, maybe?
Yeah, he's in that. Yeah.
Okay. Udo Kier for Swan Song, not Mahershala Ali, and Simon Rex for Red Rocket. So I have seen only Jockey. So I'm just going to say I liked Clifton Collins Jr. for that. It's a film that I think if you've seen Chloe Zhao's, was it Lean on Pete that she did?
I thought she did The Rider.
That's it.
Yeah.
But also that film. If you've seen Lean on Pete and The Rider, I think it's a very similar film. So if you like those movies, you'll like Jockey. Sony Classics has paid this film dust. It didn't even try. Like, there was no FYC events. Like, we get FYC event emails because technically Film Independent is a guild.
Yeah.
And there were nothing. There's nothing on Jockey. Just, hey, you can watch it in the screening room. So Sony Classics hire a new PR team.
See, interestingly, Jockey would be, I've seen all 5 nominees, Jockey would be my least favourite of them. But again, as I said earlier, I don't like films about men who the whole film is, they need to learn to say I love you. So Jockey just was not a film for me in any way, shape or form. I wouldn't say his performance was bad, but there was nothing in it for me.
You know who I would have actually rather have seen nominated? And this would be in Best Supporting Male.
Mm.
I would rather see, I forget his name, but the kid in this.
Yes, who was originally in Hannah Montana.
Yes. So if you guys know who that is, that guy, he's in it.
Yeah.
And he's great in it. In fact, he's actually much more of the emotional core of the film than
he
Paul
is.
Jr.
But yeah, so my vote originally would have, I mentioned it at the top of the episode, my vote originally would have been for Udo Kier, who I think is totally worthy of nomination and is a wonderful, outstanding performance. But the killing of Kenneth Chamberlain is solely rests on the performance of Frankie Faison as Kenneth Chamberlain, and it's breathtaking and amazing. They're terrible words to describe something, but I was sobbing. I was scared. I was sobbing. I was really kind of emotionally devastated by the end of this film. I mean, the clues in the title. He almost all of his scenes are on his own. His almost entire performance is in an empty room talking through a door. I don't know how they filmed it, but you feel like they're there. You feel every emotion and you feel it with him. And it's just a gut-wrenching film, and his performance is one of the best I've seen.
And I mean, out of all of these, Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain is the only one with a close-up on his actual face.
Mm-hmm.
Jockey, not a close-up. It's just him riding the horse. Test Pattern, it's both of the leads together. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's just a still from the movie, which is kind of weird. Wild Indian has a close-up, but it's like that floating head thing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Swan Song is kind of, but anyways, like, I think he will win, by the way. Frankie Faison. Mm-hmm. Because that just seems like...
I hope so, because I would like that film, I'd never heard of it before this, so I would like that film to get a little bit more of a buzz around it, because I think it's a really important film to watch. As much as I felt really wrecked after watching it, I think it will connect with a lot of people.
And it has a really good PR team behind it, by the way.
That's good.
When it was coming to HBO Max, I couldn't make time for it because at the time it was just a busy season. I think I was doing AFI docs or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they were like, "Hey, do you want a screener?" I'm like, I'm kind of busy right now, but maybe later. And then, boom, it's here. It's like, come on. Come on, someone may say. Then we have Best Supporting Female. We have Jessie Buckley for Lost Daughter, Amy Forsyth for The Novice, Ruth Negga for Passing. Don't know how to say this, but I'll try it anyway. Ravika Ruessel for Pleasure, and Susanna Sun for Red Rocket. Let's see. What have I seen? I've seen Zola, Together, and Test Pattern. Though that is in that order, so
that's female lead. We're now on female supporting lead.
Oh, you're right. Wow.
Different
I've only
films,
seen Passing.
guys. Different films. So you've only seen Passing, so it's Ruth Negga for you then.
Yeah. And I think especially because of that scene, it's really early on in the film, where she has to kind of play the defense for her, who she is, like for her passing. And it's just, and I think she really is the emotional core of the film. And which seems to be a theme this year, that the supporting is actually the core. But I just think if you don't have her in there, I don't think the film would work as well. Especially just, it just wouldn't work.
So for me, ironically, considering how much I've banged on about The Novice, that would be my lowest choice to the nominations. There's nothing wrong with Amy Forsyth whatsoever. I just don't think she's integral enough to the film in the way that the other nominees in their films are. She does a fine performance, but it was nothing that, and I think it's possibly because Isabel Furman in the lead takes the whole film, so there's not much left for the others. Then it would be Rebecca Russell and Pleasure. Had the lead of Pleasure been nominated, she would have been a very strong contender for my lead actress. But again, in the same way, I just didn't think as a supporting role it had enough in it for me to really nominate it. Then it would be a tie between Ruth Negga and Jessie Buckley. I actually didn't particularly love The Last Daughter, but I did like Jessie Buckley's performance in it. I felt it was a very strong performance. So my vote is going for Susanna Sun in Red Rocket, which actually, if I look at my rankings, I think is my least favourite film of all of them. Oh, it's tied for me with Passing and The Lost Daughter. But I thought Susanna Sun in Red Rocket gives an amazing performance for a film that I didn't particularly love because of the kind of it's you're not meant to like that character, and it's a controversial film, but
Yeah.
I thought her performance was amazing. I thought she easily matched up to her co-stars. I thought she was so charismatic, so I would like to see her get the win for that one for me.
It's funny that's actually what I thought your second one would be was going to be Susanna Sun, so it wasn't far off. And then we have supporting male. We have Coleman Domingo for Zola, Miko Gattuso for Queen of Glory, Troy Kutzer for Coda, Will Patton for Sweet Thing, and Chask Spencer for Wild Indian. I have only seen Zola, Coda, and Queen of Glory, and they are ranked in that thing. Now, I will bang on the drum about Coleman Domingo and Zola forever. I love Troy Kotzer and Coda. It is one of my favorite films of the year. He just doesn't do much in it. I know a lot of people like his performance. He will win the Best Supporting Actor. I have no doubt. Both here and at the Oscars. But I didn't connect. I connected more with the Sun than anyone.
I was upset that, I will say, having watched it, I adore Troy Kotsur's performance, but I would agree. I think it's very unfair. I think the son, the brother, does it equally as much and does so much, and I was really sad that he is not getting the same kind of notice as the other three actors in the ensemble. I do think that is a misstep on people because I think he is brilliant as well, and I think he's kind of been missed out of conversation.
Yeah, and then I think for Miko, I think his thing was just I don't think he makes any impact on the film. He's just kind of there, like he's the definition of supporting, and it's just like, you didn't do enough for me.
Yeah. So for me, my lowest would be Will Patton in Sweet Thing. I just actually did not like the film Sweet Thing. I really did not care for the film. And then it would be tied between Miko and Chask for Queen of Glory and Wild Indian for the same reason. I feel like though their performances are good, they don't bring enough to the table for me to really be like, wow, that's an outstanding performance. At the moment, I'm going for Troy Kotsur and Coda. There's a bit of recency bias in that, and then there's a bit of a personal in that, like, I had a really close relationship with my father who passed away a few years ago, and though my father was not deaf, there are, like, elements that remind me of him, and so I think that really, the father-daughter relationship in that film resonated with me so much that his performance then resonated with me a lot. But if I do get that Solar rewatch in before nomination day, there is a chance that would change to Coleman Domingo.
Yeah, and I mean, what I think is so fascinating about Domingo is, like, he actively searches out tweets on his Twitter, like, and he'll retweet. Like, if you like his stuff, like, if you mention him, he'll just retweet it. And it's like, oh,
because
all right.
I think my problem with Coleman Domingo's performance is nothing to do with his performance. I think Solo was the first thing I've ever seen him in, whereas I know he's normally known for doing very different roles, so I don't have that connection. I think I saw him pop up in something else afterwards, And I was like, oh, that's the guy from Zola. So I don't think I have that connection coming into it that other people have, where it's a kind of breathtakingly different performance, because it was my first interaction with him.
I think I first saw him, and people can correct me if I'm wrong. If I've seen him in something else, they could check my Letterboxd. It was in that Vietnam movie on Netflix.
Five Bloods?
The Five Bloods, yeah.
So I've not seen
That's where I saw him first.
Okay.
So I think that kind of pushes it forward for me. Just because of that.
I saw a lot of people talking about how it was such a different performance for him, and I was like, oh, I've not seen him in anything else, so I don't have that connection.
If you get the time.
Candyman and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom are the two things I've seen him in. I don't remember him in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and I did like him in Candyman, but it didn't again stand out in that performance.
I think Ma Rainey was nominated last year. I think he was nominated.
Yeah, I didn't like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. That was one of those stage to film adaptations to me that just felt like you've done nothing here. It just feels like it's still a stage. If you're going to turn it into a film, give me a reason as to why. Okay,
so slight podcast correction. I have seen him in more than The Five Bloods. I saw him in 2012's Lee Daniels' The Butler. Mm-hmm. Then I saw him in Assassination Nation. Then Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and Zola. But why is it not saying I've seen The Five Bloods? Well, he's in it. I guess I didn't log it. Oops. Yeah, that's for supporting male. We skip over Robert Altman because they just give that award.
Yeah, Tomas, well deserved.
Well deserved. Let's see. Best international film. Okay. This is going to be a fun one because, and what I found interesting when writing my Excel spreadsheet is this actually has 6 nominees, whereas every other category has 5.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. So we have, Compartment Number 6 from Finland and Russia, Drive My Car from Japan, Parallel Mothers from Spain, Pebbles from India, Petite Maman from France, and For the Stolen from Mexico. I have seen, so in this order, this is what I like the most. Mm-hmm. This is international film, not documentary. Okay. I gotta find my documentary. Oh, there we go. No, this is international film. There we go. I've seen Compartment Number 6, Petite Maman, and Pebbles, and I rank those in that order. Because Best International Film is, I did not like, I have not seen Drive My Car, I have not seen Parallel Mothers, I have not seen Prayers for the Stolen. Pebbles is, I rated it 1 out of 5.
Wow.
It is such a bad movie. In fact, I don't know, I need to talk to Film Independent because I don't know if this is a me problem or a film problem. But there's some judder with frames. There's some frame judder to where it's not smooth.
Yeah.
I don't know if the camera they shot it with was malfunctioning or something. But you could definitely tell the action. What they're doing is just not smooth. It just frequently judders. It's kind of distracting, especially in a film where it's just 2 people walking. So that's my least. And then Petite Maman, it's not that the film was bad. The element, which I will not spoil, just doesn't work for me. The substitute for grief does not work for me.
Yeah.
At all. It just doesn't. I like the concept.
Yeah.
It's just told completely wrong. Same thing with Compartment Number 6. So I haven't seen any of the Before trilogy. It's on the list. Don't worry. Sorry, knocked the table again. And I feel like it's a similar movie to that.
Oh no, because I am on the record of hating the first Before film and vowing to never watch the other 2.
Yeah, it's like a will they, won't they, but you really don't want them because you know something is going to happen.
Mm,
And that's not any spoilers. It's just like
yeah.
kind of how romance happens in movies is,
Mhm.
and something that doesn't happen in Marry Me, um, is the
Haven't seen
Willy
Marry Me yet.
Wonka. It's okay. I had to pay for Peacock. Um, it's that and the Super Bowl is what got me to pay for Peacock. They got me on free for like 2 years, and then they put Marry Me on there. I was like, well, all
Marry
right.
Me's only on at the cinema here, and I've not had time yet, but I'm going to.
Okay.
Gonna get there.
But yeah, compartment number 6. It didn't feel special to me. I think if I had like if I have a prediction, I think I love sad boy movies. I think Drive My Car will be my number one
If you
because
like, it's very quiet as well and very, very slow. Lots of silence. Yep,
yes,
that's gonna get you.
that's just gonna rocket it. And for Parallel Mothers, I don't think that's gonna even crack the top 5 for me.
Mhm.
Because I have not seen a Pedro. I
Almodovar.
don't know how to say his last
I
name.
go with Almodovar, but I'm not sure if that's correct.
I'll see. I think that's correct. Yeah.
I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, but I have not seen any of his films, and I
Mm.
feel like that film relies so much on previous films of his,
Oh.
especially with his working relationship with Penelope Cruz.
Mm.
And for Paris for the Stolen, I think I'm just gonna hate that movie. I think I'm just gonna hate it. Because I have it downloaded. I've had it downloaded since it's come out on Netflix. Because they have the downloads for you thing, and I just can't get up the strength to watch it. I just can't. Kind of like the Kanye trilogy documentary that just came out. It's like, do I want to devote time to something I know I'll probably hate? So
So for me, I have seen Drive My Car, Parallel Mothers, which I finished 30 minutes before we started recording, and Petite Maman. Drive My Car, I didn't like. I totally get why other people liked it, but it did absolutely nothing for me. Parallel Mothers, I did enjoy. It's only my second download of our film, and my first one being Pain and Glory, which came out in 2019. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was special enough for what I've been hearing about it. Now, it might be due to the concept of the film. I've seen that kind of storyline done in loads of other pieces of media. It might be the best way I've seen it done, or at least the most stylish way I've seen it done, but it wasn't groundbreaking enough for me. Though it is beautifully filmed and wonderful performances. So at the moment, it will be going to Petite Maman for me. Now, I love Celine Sciamma. I'm actually annoyed I did not wear my Celine Sciamma t-shirt. Now I've realised in this. Portrait of a Lady on Fire is in my top 3 films of all time.
I haven't seen
Um, oh my god, no. See, I like sad girl.
Celine Sciamma film.
I love sad girl films and Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Oh, but so Petite Maman, I don't think it's the best film I've ever seen, but I also can't fault it. I think it's just very nice, very sweet, very lovely. It was a lovely way to spend 80 minutes. I
Yeah,
didn't expect, based on, because when these came out, that was the only one I'd seen in this category. I didn't expect that that would get my vote, because it definitely wouldn't get my vote for Best Foreign Film of 2021. That would go, what would that go to? I'm going to find out what that will go to in a second. But out of the 3 that I've watched so far, it is the one I enjoyed the most, and I'm interested based on your reactions. It sounds like it might stay in that position for me.
yeah,
So my best foreign film of the year, would be 3 in a row: Ninja Baby, L'Envolment, and The Worst Person in the World. Easily, all
that.
3 of them would get my best. Now, I'd imagine The Worst Person in the World wasn't eligible. L'Envolment
No.
or The Happening, also it's just Happening. I don't know if it's eligible or not. That won the Venice Award. Ninja Baby, I would have imagined would have been eligible, but that hasn't had any awards buzz whatsoever, and it's a real shame because it's a lovely film. But yeah, so this category has been a little bit weak for me based on the other foreign films I've seen, but that might be a budget thing rather than a not films not getting nominated.
Yeah, like if I had to go international film, like not off this list, there's so many I've seen that haven't released yet.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly documentaries. Um, well, I can't say Cyrano.
Well, that's also it. I don't understand why Flea wasn't nominated in this feature, because Flea would easily have taken it. I don't understand how people couldn't give Flea a nomination in international. It deserves it, and it would have got my vote.
I would do I'm Your Man at the very least.
I still haven't seen that.
Mogul Mowgli.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Topside I can't do because that's still technically not out. Primetime. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's. Oh, Truffle Hunters.
I've heard good things about that.
And then, well, I can't nominate that because that's not out yet. So, and I guess Azure as well. But there's so much I've seen that hasn't released yet, and it's like, it's movies that came out like 2 years ago. Like 9 Days just came out in like what, March?
Because that was in last year's nominations, and I loved it and was really taken away with it, and I expected it would be appearing in so many places, and it just died a slow death, and it was never spoken about again.
Well, there's a secret to that. I don't know if you go to the Sony Classics Awards page, but they only said last year, they said they only nominated it, or they only were submitting to Film Independent. So when you do that, that says, okay, Oscars can't submit it. Nobody else can take it. So there was no way it could get it anywhere else.
Okay.
So
that's a shame.
Hence why I'm saying Sony Classics, get a new PR team. Come on. And then, all joking aside, let's get to Best Documentary, which does have Flea in it.
Yes, it does.
It has Ascension, Flea, In the Same Breath, Procession, and Summer of Soul, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised. I have seen, I've seen In the Same Breath and Summer of Soul. So, I don't know why these aren't ranked, but all right. I'll rank them live. But Summer of Soul is obviously at the top. I've already made my feelings clear about In the Same Breath. I could not make it through. I've seen Nan-Fu Wang's other stuff. This is not top tier for her, in the slightest. Not even remotely close. It is so infuriating when I know sometimes the purpose of a documentary is just to place a camera in a room and just hit record. But it is so infuriating. It is so infuriating because that's all In the Same Breath is. She puts people in these COVID rooms in China, I think, and tells them to record, and then she goes and edits it. And it's like...
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a film I'll care for.
And there's no narrative structure to it at all. So hence why I said bye in the first 30 minutes. I will probably be watching it again, just so people know. But Summer of Soul is easily going to take it for me.
Yeah. So the only one I've seen is Flea. So it's going to take a hard film to combat Flea, because Flea was one of my top films of last year. I think it is a beautiful film. Again, I was really lucky to see it in the cinema as part of London Film Festival. The producer and documentarian gave a talk afterwards, which was even more, because you got even more insight into the making of it. I think it's just a groundbreaking film. It opens up the door to what animation can do for the documentary format. And I was really so pleased that I took the time to watch it. So if anyone has access to it and they haven't watched it yet, I just do, because you won't be disappointed. The only thing I think might Summer of Soul, I've only heard positive about that there's a chance that could edge it out, but I don't think it will.
So let me ask you something. Did you see Apollo 11?
No.
Okay, have you seen documentaries where it takes previously recorded footage and edits that into a documentary?
Yes.
So, well, I wish I could compare it to Apollo 11, because that's the closest comparison I have. But it's, I guess, I haven't seen it, but it's almost like the Beatles Get Back. It's just a concert. There's interspersed talking heads. One which really made me angry, But then I realized that person was a producer. So all I'll say is his initials are LMM.
Oh.
Yeah. That made me kind of angry because we've already reached peak LMM, and I'm over it.
See, Tick Tick Boom is my heart right now,
Well,
so I'm not over it.
Okay, like I like it better when he's not talking.
That's fair. No, I can get that.
Like the reason, like for LMM fans out there, let me clarify something. It's not that didn't I didn't like that he was in it. It was he felt the need that because he was a producer, he'd had to insert himself in it. It's the same thing with Tarantino.
Yeah.
When Tarantino is in his movies, I'm like, it instantly pulls me out of the film because I know he's the director, and what is the director doing here?
Yeah.
And there was a moment that in Tick Tick Boom that pulls me out of it, but after reading it, I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Is it the diner scene?
Yeah. Because
if you know why it's there, it's brilliant. But if you don't understand it, it's like, what is this scene?
Yeah, after reading a little bit behind that scene, but I think he appeared in another Sundance film. I think when I watched Summer of Soul initially, I think I watched it back to back with Street Gang, How We Got to Sesame Street, which he is also in. Also made me angry, and I was like, dude, you don't need to show up in everything you produce.
Yeah.
Please stop. So that's it's much more of a it pulls down the film for me. Mm-hmm. It's not any personal vendetta. I like Encanto. It's not my favorite animated film of the year. That's Mitchell's versus Machines.
As it should be.
As it should be. Really close with Raya. Really close.
Great Raya. Just didn't do anything for me.
Okay. Yeah. I liked the Avatar Last Airbender stuff in it. I'll take what we can get, but it's just that thing. It's not a personal vendetta I have against the guy. It's just it's really distracting. Because in a film that's about this one singular event, all of a sudden you have him talking, and it's like, dude, you're not a part of this event. What are you doing here? And then there's like a little title card that says producer, and I was like, oh, okay, got it. And I might be mixing this up with Street Gang because I also saw those neck and neck together, but he does appear in it. I know that for sure, and it's just irritating. Sorry, LMM fans. That's my rant.
Yeah.
And then we have television categories. I have seen every one of these television shows.
Wow.
Not in completion, but I have seen some to completion.
Yeah.
So I think the first one we have is new scripted series, which is Blind Spotting, It's a Sin, Reservation Dogs, The Underground Railroad, and We Are Lady Parts. My ranking is Blind Spotting. I've seen every episode. It's a Sin. I saw 2 episodes of that, the ones that are available on the screening platform. Mm-hmm. The Underground Railroad, I've only seen 1 episode, the one that's on the screening platform. Same with We Are Lady Parts and Reservation Dogs. Mm-hmm. I guess I'll go top to bottom. I like Blind Spotting mainly because I like the movie. There are very big problems with it, especially surrounding how it serves as a sequel to Blind Spotting itself. I think you could call this anything else and change the story to where it's not a Blind Spotting show, and it would still work. Because it's very minimally involved with the story you know from Blind Spotting. There are sections where it kind of plays with things, but then the more you think about how it intersects with Blind Spotting the movie, you're like, that doesn't make sense. Where's Colin? What happened? Especially given the ending of Blind Spotting the movie.
I haven't seen it, so don't spoil it.
Okay. And then second, I have It's a Sin. I just think, what is the actor's name? Ali Alexander?
Yes, Ollie Alexander.
He in the episodes they provided, it gave me, okay, this isn't just a bang-on performance. It is one of the best TV performances I've seen of all time. um, and just truly magnificent. And I think it handles its story with enough grace that it doesn't get stereotypical. And then Underground Railroad, not my jam, but I still like the idea of it. We Are Lady Parts. I like the comedy, not for me.
Yeah.
Because I think there's someone in there that I know and like, so I think that kind of boosts it for me. Reservation Dogs. This goes along with the LMM thing.
Taika Waititi thing.
Yeah, I can't. His humor I can't do. Like Thor Ragnarok is my lowest ranked Thor movie, and like the only one I think I've ever liked of a project he was involved in was Jojo Rabbit. That's the only one I think I ever liked, and that's because it's so not Taika.
Yeah, it's an adaptation of a book, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's like you could say that Steven Spielberg directed Jojo Rabbit, and I would have believed you, mainly because Spielberg doesn't have a directing style anymore. But that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, I just didn't. I didn't dig Reservation Dogs, but I would have. I think I would have loved it if maybe I'd seen more of it. Because I think the idea of turning the Tarantino movie into a story about Native Americans is really interesting. But it just, that first episode that they give you in the screening platform just doesn't. I'll probably watch the rest of it. Like, most likely because it's on Hulu and it's like, okay, well, it's pretty streamable, and I now have Peacock, so I'll probably go and watch We Are Lady Parts and The Underground Railroad. Sadly, HBO Max holds its sin, so I can't see the rest of that, but I would love to. So yeah, that's nothing particularly bad in new scripted series.
Yeah.
Well, unlike last year.
See, the only one I've seen is We Are Lady Parts, which I just watched during the summer, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I haven't, as I said, kind of up top, I've not seen any of the TV, and I've not had time to do them, so I'm a bad member.
No, it's okay. And I think a lot of the Peacock shows are not going to be winning because I don't think.
I imagine it's going to be It's a Sin. I think It's a Sin is going to win this.
But Blind Spotting.
I just know when It's a Sin came out over here last year, it was the only thing anyone talked about for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So I would be very surprised if it didn't win.
See, and here, everyone was talking about Blind Spotting. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so yeah.
And Reservation Dogs.
See, Reservation Dogs only came out a few weeks ago over here, so it's kind of, yeah.
And I will say, to those who haven't seen Blind Spotting, it's on Stars, which is like the worst platform for it. I think it should be a Hulu show, but that's neither here nor there. They picked the wrong episode to show to members. Having seen every episode, that is not the episode I would have shown. Okay, there is an episode where the Earl, a character with an ankle monitor, is trying to get a job. And the whole episode is structured around him and him alone. And there's not any... and there's another episode they could probably throw in there where the main character visits Miles in jail. And there's some really good psychology and sociological lessons. But the episode they chose is the worst out of them.
Interesting.
I would have chosen any other episode other than that. I know why they did, because there's a scene where one of the characters talks jive, I believe. And I think they're thinking, oh, well, that fits in our three little boxes. Because I do think... Anyways. Anyhow. I think... Did you say your new scripted series?
Just We Are Lady Parts is the only one I think of in any category I've seen.
Okay. So then I will just go on to new non-scripted or documentary series.
Mm.
So the nominees are Black and Missing, The Cho Show, Lady in the Dale, and Nuclear Family. They only gave us one episode each. And I have not seen any other episode. But interestingly enough, in one of their FYC emails, they gave a link for all the episodes of Philly DA, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
So that might be tipping the scales a little bit for film independent members, because they're like, oh, I can see all of them.
Then they'll have a better relationship with the show as a whole.
So my ranking is The Cho Show at number 1, Philly DA at number 2, Nuclear Family at number 3, The Dale and Lady in the Dale at number 4, and Black and Missing at number 5. I think we all know what's going to win this. Black and Missing is probably going to win. HBO shows normally win new non-scripted or documentary. I think it did last year at least. And a lot of these are, Nuclear Family, Lady in the Dale, Black and Missing are all HBO.
Right.
So the chances of an HBO show not winning is
low,
insane. But I like the Cho Show because it's a visually inventive show where it has no structure at all.
Oh.
It's just an interview kind of show. And I like that. I also like David Cho quite a bit. Philly DA is really good. Do I think it might be a little hard to get into because it is much more documentary. I also think they should split this up. I think they should make documentary its own, because if I was picking documentary series, I'd obviously go Philly DA. But if we're going non-scripted, I would do Cho Show.
Yeah.
And then Nuclear Family, it's okay. It's much more like a documentary. A girl trying to find out the story behind her parents. Lady in the Dale is fine. Wasn't for me. It reminds me a lot of it reminded me of a Showtime show I watched last year. I can't remember the name of it. My Psychedelic Love Story. That's it.
Okay.
It reminds me a lot of that, which I think was also nominated last year. And while I liked My Psychedelic Love Story, it just wasn't, the glue wasn't there.
Yeah.
And Black and Missing, I hate to say this. It just isn't interesting enough to grab me. It just presents things and then just doesn't expect you to do anything with the information. And it's just not my bag. Not my bag. And then I think next we have male and female performance. So let's go female first. We have, I don't know why I put my little paper away. For female, we have Vesu Beru for Underground Railroad, Anja Visan and Jana Visan for We Are Lady Parts, Jana Schmeiding for Rutherford Falls, Jasmine Cephas Jones for Blind Spotting, and Deborah Ayorande for Them Covenant. So I have these ranked in this order. Jasmine Cephas Jones for Blind Spotting. Literally, you would not have a show without her.
Okay.
Because a lot of the show is just her talking through the issues she's dealing with her husband in prison. And that's not spoilers. It literally happens in the first episode. Not the episode they give you, by the way. It's really, like, they give you an episode in the middle of the show. It's ridiculous. So if it doesn't win, that's why. Then I have Anjana Visan for We Are Lady Parts. I think her performance is the best thing about that show.
Yeah.
Sorry about the yelling. In a shared space. Then I have Deborah for Them Covenant. And because I think her performance is the best out of all of them. even though there is a male performance, which I think he's nominated to. I think his is better, but I like her role in the episodes that they give us.
Yeah.
So, and then unfortunately, Underground Railroad and Rutherford Falls, neither one of those actresses' performance did anything for me. In fact, Rutherford Falls feels actually kind of stereotypical to the Indian story.
So I have actually seen all of Rutherford Falls. It didn't particularly work for me as a show. What I will say is, though, her performance kind of does become the kind of part of it, but I equally wouldn't say it was the strongest performance I've seen in the year. So like out of the two that I've seen, We Are the Lady Parts and Rutherford Falls, I'd give it to Anjana Vasan for We Are Lady Parts. Jana Schmeiding, I'm terrible pronunciation there.
Yeah.
Within the whole context of the show, she does give a really great performance, but it's very subtle, it's very quiet and understated. So I don't think it's kind of an awardsy performance.
Yeah.
It's a bit mean to say.
Yeah, and same thing with Thusu Mbidu for Underground Railroad. It's just not. I feel like with the episode they gave, and they said only judge the performance based on the episodes we give you. So, it's just that performance. I liked William Jackson Harper's performance in that episode a ton more, like 1,000% more. Now, is that bias from The Good Place? Maybe. But he's just such a good actor.
Yeah.
That I don't know why you wouldn't nominate him for this. I don't know why. But speaking of males, our final category is Best Male Performance in a New Scripted Series. That is, I'm going to butcher these names. Lee Young-ye for Squid Game. Ollie Alexander for It's a Sin. Michael Grey Eyes. Okay, so I was right. Rutherford Falls. Murray Bartlett for The White Lotus. And Ashley Thomas for Them Covenant.
I'm guessing that you will be going for Ollie Alexander?
He's my number 2.
Oh, okay.
I love campy performances. I love camp. It's such a good... So, my number 1 is actually Murray Bartlett from The White Lotus.
I have seen 4 episodes of that show so far, and I just don't know how I feel about that film. But I do give it to you, it's a very campy, and like if he's going for camp, he's doing an amazing job of it. Like it is a strong.
Yeah, like I hope I'm thinking of the right performer.
The manager.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I am thinking because like they don't give pictures. Yeah. And any of the announcements.
I don't know if you saw. I quickly did a Google, and it was because I was like, "Who from the White Lotus is it?" And I was like, "Oh, it's the manager."
Okay. Yeah, just like with the mustache, everything. He's just like passive aggressive, and I love it.
And the addiction issues and that kind of thing is great.
Like I think if there is one episode that they were bang on selecting, that's it.
Can I ask what? I probably haven't seen it yet on the.
It's I forget what the episode name is. Let me pull up the thingy.
So I'm up to where they have been on the romantic boat trip.
Okay, that's not the one.
Yeah.
I think it's right after that. Where the lady gets confused about BLM.
Yes, that was the last episode I watched, and I hoped it was that one because he kind of has the thing with his employee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is he's very good in that episode.
But Ollie Alexander, like, it was really hard choosing, but Ollie Alexander is number 2. If only because they chose the wrong episodes.
Yeah.
Because literally, in the chronological order of the episodes that they give you, it jumps from, hey, well, I don't want to spoil it. It jumps from one event to a very different event.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get whiplash a little bit going between episodes, because there's just the first one is not even the first episode. I think it's like the third or fifth, and I think the second episode is the seventh or something like that.
So,
it's like the final episode, and it's like, I would not have. I would have done the first episode and then like the fifth, because then you could have been like, okay, I know who these characters are.
Yeah.
Because most of the time they do pick the first episode. Like they did that with Rutherford Falls. They did that with We Are Lady Parts. Black and Missing, Lady in the Dale, Nuclear Family.
That's a shame for We Are Lady Parts, because I actually think episode 2 would be better, and you would still get a really decent, because episode 1 is about her finding the band, whereas episode 2 you see her trying to integrate with them, and I think that would have been a better, and you'd still get a good idea of what the point of the show was.
Yeah, I would agree. I'll probably watch it on Peacock now that I have it for the next month until I cancel it. I'm not paying $5 for Peacock every month. And then I have Lee Young-jae. I hope I'm saying that right, for Squid Game. I'm sorry, I didn't explain why Ollie Alexander is my number 2. Other than the episode choice, I think he just puts on a really powerful performance. And I think just you are in the same mindset he is. I'm really a big fan of placing the viewer in a mindset. In fact, I talked to the Sound of Metal sound editor about it. I was like, hey, how do you do that? When, it's such a audio based film, how do you place it visually? And he had a wonderful answer. It's on my YouTube channel. But yeah, I just love things that place us in the character's mind. Then obviously Lee Young-jae for Squid Game. I have not seen any other episode of Squid Game, so I have no context. But I liked his performance. So, and that's all we're judging. So it's a good performance. It's decent. Ashley Thomas, Them Covenant. This is low because they picked the entirely wrong episodes. Because it does not emphasize his performance at all. There is a scene or two in one of them where it's focused on him, and it just doesn't land for me because I have no context for what's going on in the series. It just kind of says, "Hey, accept these things that happened," and you're like, "Wait, what's going on?" Unlike Rutherford Falls, which had at least here's what happens on this season. It didn't have that recap of any kind. So it was really hard to get into, and that's the only reason. I feel like it would have been number 1 if I had more context. And then Michael Grey Eyes, Rutherford Falls, same issue here. I have no context for his role in the series. He's like maybe in it for 5 minutes.
Oh, that's a real shame because he becomes quite important as it goes on. So that's a real shame.
And that's my problem with, judge it based on this one episode or 2 or 3 that we give you. So that is my ballot. Well, I haven't cast it yet, but we've
got 5 days to fill in some gaps.
Yeah, so on my list, here's what I have to see: Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, Catch the Fair One, Wild Indian, Flea, Holler, Sweet Thing, Nowhere in the Same Breath, Novice, Ascension, Swan Song, Pleasure, blah. a whole bunch.
I would say prioritize Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, Flea, and The Novice. They are the 3 that I would say heavily prioritize.
I'm definitely going to, binge. Because we've only got till Tuesday at 5 p.m. or 7 p.m.
See, that's
Eastern?
like midnight for me, so I've got a bit more time technically. It's the same amount of time, but that day I have more time.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, interestingly, that Cryptozoo, Fayadai, Shiva Baby, This is a War Story, Cicada, I Blame Society, and North by Current were not on the screen platform. Although they did Although they did send out a screener for Faya Dai separately, which was weird.
So I'd already seen Shiver Baby and Cicada previous, as Shiver Baby is on Mubi over here, and
Okay.
I saw Cicada 2 years ago. I got sent a screener for it. I don't know if it's for a festival or not, but yeah, because I had to Google to check it was the same film because I saw that in 2020. It's a nice film though. It's lovely. It's a shame. I don't really know why they didn't provide a screener. Because like I say, I was sent one randomly like 2 years ago to review. Maybe it was part of a festival, but I'm honestly not sure it was. So.
Yeah, like, and it's not even out, so it's like.
And I'm surprised that Shiver Baby, though Shiver Baby isn't in a category that we can vote for, so that's probably why Shiver Baby isn't.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that one makes sense. But Cicada is in a category that you can vote in. A couple, maybe? Just one.
It's in Best First Screenplay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a shame because it is a lovely film. So, never mind.
So yeah, that is everything we have. It's interesting what got nominated and what didn't. I thought like stuff like I'm Your Man would make it in here, but nope. I honestly thought there was like when I'd finished Sundance 2021. There was going to be a lot of Sundance stuff, and there's really not a lot. Like, I figured Street Gang would be in here. Just a lot of surprises, which I like, to be clear. I like when I haven't seen a bunch of movies, and then I have to race to see the movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I like that. I like being part of Film Independent. I for a little bit, I was like, I don't know, should I renew? But to anyone who maybe doesn't know, I mean, it's only $95 a year. And I get a lot of my screeners through them. I saw, which ones did I see through them? Let's see. I saw, let's see. I've seen a few of these through. Well, I guess not a lot. I saw Blue Bayou. Well, I've seen a few of these through them, but I won't bore.
I saw quite a lot of films at the start, the mid of the pandemic last year. A lot of the films that I was seeing were through Film Independent because they were just giving. I got to see the Sparks Brothers. I got to see. I definitely there was a kind of chunk where I was watching one a week, and all kind of different stuff that's not necessarily been nominated, but they do have a good selection.
Yeah, and I mean I like Val. Is another one I saw, which I thought would make best documentary here, but I appreciate that Film Independent just doesn't schedule anything for the time that the screening room is open.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I can actually watch things.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Even though I am a slacker and still haven't gotten to 17 of these.
So yeah, I've only got 1, 2, 3. I've got 8 left, and I feel like a slacker. No, I've got 7 left, and I feel like a slacker. Though I didn't do any of the TV, so I've really slacked on that side.
Yeah, I prioritized by runtime, so legit, my next 2 are Kenneth Chamberlain and Catch the Fair One. Because those are hour 22, hour 25.
Yeah.
So yeah, before my voice goes out, I am gonna let you go. But Claire, I want to thank you so much for being on. It truly was a pleasure. Because I think in this era, whichever one we're in, I will not name the name. It's always refreshing to get to connect with other critics. And I think, it's interesting to talk about ballots because you learn a lot. Because, some person probably has Pebbles at the top of the list, which if you have Pebbles at the top of your list, yeah, or they have it at the bottom, even though it's definitely going to win an Oscar.
Yeah, it took the worst person in the world to spot, and I'm mad about it still.
I think that would be the one I would have wanted to see here.
I
Mainly,
have to believe the only reason it wasn't nominated is because it would have cost too much. But
yeah, and it's and I guess it's a little mainstream because it's a Trier movie, and they like to go a lot more indie. I mean,
yeah,
we have a movie I've never we've heard. There's a ton of movies I've heard of in here, like Sweet Thing. I hadn't heard of it. Just a bunch. Pebbles I hadn't heard of. Queen of Glory I hadn't heard of. Yeah, it was just a lot. But yeah, thank you so much. And for those listening, I hope you enjoyed this. There's going to be a lot more. I was talking to Claire before we got on and recorded, and I have on a week from now. I think I'll post the episode late because I'm interviewing 3 people all at once about their ballots. And I think I want to say they've cast their ballots, but I don't know yet. I'll have to follow up with them. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to the 5th episode of the Awesome B Media podcast. It was a labor of love. Even editing it for the entire day was fascinating, and going through all of it is fascinating. And I really want to thank Claire again for coming on. She didn't have to do this. She didn't have to answer that DM. But yeah, I like that. She came on. And I also want to thank Erin Billings, who gave me the idea when I basically asked her for ideas. And she, I say it earlier in the podcast, but she gave me the idea to do all of this. I've got, I think the next episode is another awards ballot interview. So be aware of that. I might have to put out a patron-only podcast to kind of play catch up in the interim. But I also want to thank my patrons who enable me to keep doing this. Otherwise, I still wouldn't be doing this. Without your support, the show would just not be to the quality it is. So that's Thomas Stoneham Judge from moviesforreal.net, Shane Conto from the Wasteland Reviewer, among other things, Joseph Davis, David Walters, Beulah Rula, and Matthew Simpson from Awesome Friday. Y'all are great. I love talking to you. I love how much you interact. It's great. And if you're not a patron and want to become a patron and get things like this, podcast free, well, not free, but early. You can just go to patreon.com/awesomebmedia. The link is in the description, as well as the Film Independent membership and a bunch of other things we talked about. And I would actually love your feedback on this podcast. So give me a review on iTunes. I'll have a link to that, as well as Spotify now. Spotify has that reviews now. So just let me know what you thought of the chapters and everything. So until next time, peace.